I just started seeing some videos out about fall palettes and I don't know why, but I just got so excited. I think because I haven't done one of these videos in so long and I just got a new palette that I'm so excited about. It was a splurge, it was, but it's gonna be so worth it this coming fall. And then I just started pulling out the things I'm excited to use for fall and I just kept going and going and going and going and going and going, and then I was just like, oh my gosh, we just have to do a video. And you guys, the pile runneth over. It just keeps going. It keeps going. So yeah, let's go through the palettes I'm so excited to use for fall, and I know a lot of you have had some of these palettes before, so let's talk about them. Can't believe it's already September. So starting on top, so I can get these little guys kind of out of the way, I have a bunch of Natasha Denona. And these are some minis and some of the more limited palettes that she does that I've gotten some in subscription, some that I bought. I'm really excited about these because I've already had to kind of like just start adding as I started pulling out all these palettes. I just kept going, oh, I love this shade, and oh, what if I put that here? So today's eye look is a hodgepodge of so many different palettes. Now, I did just film a video with one of the palettes that is a brand new Natasha Denona palette that I just filmed, so you can watch how the original eye look that's underneath this did in a previous video. I will link it up here for you. Let's talk about some Natasha Denona minis to start this video because that just seems like a bang to start with. I bought this palette within the past year and it has been a great little investment. And it's also why I have not splurged on the warm palette just yet that just came out with Natasha Denona, because this is the mini bronze palette and I do really love this palette. Today, as soon as I had this out, I just kept looking at it going, you know what, this would look great with what I already have on. So of course I had to dip in here just a little bit to add some warmth, some of those fall caramel orange toned autumnal vibes right up here, and I already love it. I don't think I can swatch everything for you or this video would be forever long. And if you missed my last video, again, go check it out. I'm talking about trying to implement more videos throughout the week. So, ooh, look at these swatches, look at them. Definitely stay tuned to my channel to see how more videos are going to be popping up. Look how perfect this is for fall. Does this not scream fall? This is all the fall vibes. And again, it's kind of part of the reason I have not splurged on her latest palette, because I already have so many great quality shadows from Natasha that you're going to see through this video that are in that warm fall festive color story. These are so yummy. This is when the grandma rag is gonna come in clutch today, because obviously I'm gonna be touching some shadows. Also, I'm having a crisp apple Dr. Brew for my beverage of choice, giving me those fall vibes. So yes, my friends, be sure to tell me when you'd like to see more of my videos. I do upload on Saturday mornings, but what's another day in the week? I would like to slowly start implementing more uploads because I really think that's what YouTube and you guys are wanting now. The next palette that I have here is one I've had for a little bit. This screams Fall Festival. This is the Fez palette, and look at these oranges, golds, browns. We've got this midnight blue. And again, once I saw this palette, I couldn't help but dive into this very chocolatey shade. It is broken, so I have to be so careful because so many of these types of palettes come broken when they're shipping. It's so obnoxious. I'm gonna like cup it like this, but I did put some of this on my outer corner to warm up the eye look. But look at this. Like, we are seeing the fall pumpkin vibes. We're getting a little caramel. We're getting the midnight colors. We're getting the golds. I mean, oof. Let's just look at a couple of them. I mean, look at that. You could not scream fall anymore if you tried. Look at that. Ooh, love it. And the formula is so beautiful, so consistent with the Natasha Denona formula. Look at that shimmer. Look at that gold. It's like got that orange gold to it. It's so pretty. I'm gonna need to get a wet rag soon. This is definitely gonna stain because look how punchy that is. Did you get this palette in a subscription box? I can't remember if this was an add-on or a subscription box, but this is one of the Natasha Denona, like, kind of, I don't know if it's a limited run or a special run, but this is the perfect time of year to pull it out. Now this palette was something that inspired me in so many ways. It really opened up my eyes to cooler toned shadows and how I can use them for my skin, my eye looks, but also it led into other purchases that I'm gonna be telling you about soon that are very pricey, but so worth it. Let's talk about the Ayana palette. Again, this is one of her 5 shadow pan palettes here, and I fell in love with this. I believe this is a mixture of a few of her other palettes put into an Ayana palette. These warm chocolate, a little bit of shimmer, neutral but cool tone shades became my go-to a few falls ago, and I just fell in love. It really opened up my eyes to how I could use more cool tones because this formula was so good, so consistent, and so great on my skin tone. It works for a wide variety of people too, and this just is what started really luring me into the cool side zone of makeup, and I kind of stopped using warm tones and just started going with cool tones for so long. And this palette is to blame / thank. Now I do have a wet rag here, but I do think some of these are so pigmented they're probably gonna stain, so just roll with me on this video, okay? A lot of us talked about this palette quite a bit when I first got it years ago. Do you still have it? And is this the time of year that you pull out those cooler tones? Do you have other palettes that are cool toned that you get excited for? Tell me. Speaking of cool tones, this is the Cupid palette. And I got so many of these from subscription boxes because I was getting my PR and paid for ones. And I feel like I got this palette over like a half of a year in several different boxes. So I was gifting them to you guys, gifting them to friends, because this is a really great cool toned palette, but it has a little bit more of what I call that dusty rose vibe. It's got a little bit of that pink undertone, a little bit of a gray undertone, but we also have this cranberry shade here. Really beautiful palette, very consistent formula, and this is definitely one that I like to pull out in the cooler months. But how perfect is this like cranberry eye look that you could get from this for the fall season? It's so perfect. How pretty does this look? I mean, again, one swatch and you can see all of the color nuances. It's so pretty, so perfect for fall. The name Cupid definitely leads into thinking about, you know, Valentine's, and absolutely you can use her for that. And it might be why you may not consider this for fall, but again, I would definitely consider this palette also a fall palette. These are only just 4 of the palettes so far. They're all Natasha and they're all fantastic. Now, if you are looking for a little bit of Natasha in your life, I definitely have a Natasha Denona code. Use code Nichole Fisher and save that money. Now we're gonna get into something way more affordable, and this is a palette that I feel like is dual used for me. Fall and spring. That is the time that I tend to pull out the Colourpop Star Wars Mandalorian. Now, don't tell me if you are a Colourpop lover, you either haven't salivated over this palette or received, purchased, got, used, loved, and worn this palette. This is a very green, golden, but neutral palette. This is a really nice one that I like to pull out for the fall. Why do green tones make me think of fall? I don't know. It just has always been when I would pull out, I think, the green, like army style green jackets that we loved, the green pants. I don't know. I just feel like for me, those deeper green tones that are a little bit more muted fall into fall and some spring. So I think that's why this is something I always get excited to use in the fall and cannot wait to pull this baby out, because we have some definite shades in here that some have some shimmers, some are just mattes. They are beautiful. And also green looks great with brown eyes. So that's probably another reason that I always think of it in the fall. All right, now is the time. Now is the time that you're gonna pull back into your arsenal. You're gonna go into the Wayback Machine and you're gonna pull out, if you have it, because it was a little controversial at the time, years ago, the Subculture. How many of you guys remember this palette? It was like this time in YouTube that we were all excited and all getting the same one product, or we were seeking out reviews to know if we wanted it. And the Subculture, YouTube talked me out of this palette. I know, and now it's sitting here because this was like the controversial, such a soft formula that you could hit pan if you kept swirling your brush into it a zillion times. But I mean, who does that? Not me. And look, I have had this palette for years now and have not hit any pan, but I've definitely hit some dips into it. This Subculture palette is the epitome of fall for me. We've got cool tones. We've got a touch of a little bit of warm, but it's very neutral. But these pops of color that you're seeing that are still a bit neutral based are still beautiful for fall. I find these greens, these beautiful purple shades, these yellow golden tones, a little bit of gray, blue. These are all gorgeous shades for the fall. I have pulled out some looks with this through the years and loved it. I actually was more interested in this palette originally than I was the, oh shoot, what is it called? Modern Renaissance. How did I forget that name? The word romance was coming to me, but Modern Renaissance. I saw the Modern Renaissance. Everybody was obsessed with it. I wasn't as interested in it because of the color story. But this one, I was absolutely interested in, so I was so upset when YouTube ruined it for me. But I fell back in love with it once. I think I got it at like a Marshall's for a sale. Look at this. This is fantastic. This has so many options for you for the fall time that you could be neutral, you could be very easy breezy, or you can go more bold, whatever you want. Now, while I have her out, I would be remiss to not say, if you're gonna go back to the Wayback Machine and pull this out, why not go back to the Modern Renaissance? Don't drop it like I'm about to. I don't know what it is about this palette today, this shape of palette, I'm dropping it. This is clearly not only just a throwback, but a fall lover's dream. I feel like when we do think about these nostalgic things, it tends to be when it gets to be a little bit cooler, we tend to be reminiscent over, I don't know, things in the past that we've loved, and this is definitely one of them. This is such an easy breezy fun palette, super easy to apply, gives a beautiful look still. Is it the most popular thing right now that is in the 2024 realm of makeup? Not really. But that's also why it's kind of fun to pull out these things that we know are great quality and nostalgic, and more than likely it's in your collection or you've thought about it a lot. What is on my thumb? This is what happens when you nearly drop things. You get your thumb in things that is that up here? I don't know what this was in. You can also mix and match them because they're the same formula and both amazing. All right, now this is a palette, I will not tell a lie, I pull out and use throughout the year. However, I only use 2 to 3 shades in this up until this time of year. Don't ask why my brain works the way it does. It just does. Do you know what I mean? So this is the old school Too Faced chocolate gold palette. So pretty. I've still loved the packaging on this. I got this later than like when it was popular. And the shades that I have used in this throughout the year are the neutrals. This massive pan here that is that neutral shade is so opaque and perfect. I use this all the time to clean up or fix an eye look. And then this shade here is beautiful. This shade here, it's like I just kind of like stay into this very, very neutral territory. Maybe sometimes the brown. But this is the time of year we can go into these gemstone shades. We can go into these golds, these purples. And yes, there's other nudes in here, but for some reason I only think to pull them out once it's cooler, once we're starting to get into those fall vibes. It's so yummy. It's such a pretty palette. It's kind of like some juicy fruit on my arm. We've got some coppers in here. We've got some punches of color, but it's also a really great formula to work with. And I have found this to be stunning for those jewel tone times of year, which for me are in the fall. Too Faced Chocolate Gold palette. I mean, do you still have her? Is she still kind of like haunting your collection? Maybe this is something you should pull out for fall. Oh my gosh. What should we do for the haunted Halloween special this year, you guys? Should we go back into some old makeup that I still have? Okay, the next 2 things are just fall because when you see them, you're gonna know, right? You're gonna know. The next 2 I feel just like are a little self-explanatory. We have the Misunderstood Villains palette by Colourpop, and we have the Hocus Pocus Gather Round Sisters palette. I mean, can you use these in spring? Yes. Can you use them in summer? Of course. But when does your brain automatically get excited to pull them out? Because again, the color stories are gemstones, rich tones, and also spooky tones. Obviously, it's fall. Look at this. This is the Misunderstood palette. Look at these gemstone shades. Look at these. I mean, don't you just want to be Maleficent with the shade? You do. Greens, we've got the Midnight Blues. We've got so many gorgeous shades. You can't help but be so excited for the fall time. Oh my gosh, the fall goodness. I mean, look at it. Look at them. This is so pretty. I just love all of these. And this is the time of year where I think I punch out more color anyway. I don't know if it's just like the vibes of the leaves changing color. I don't know if it's just the spooky vibes that we see on TV socials. It's just that time of year now where I want to put more color on my face and on my body versus the summertime neutrals. Gather round, sisters. I mean, this sucker flew off the shelves. I think they're still selling this. Do they sell this still? I can't remember. This one's a lot more neutral, but it also has so many options of greens that I didn't have in my collection. These more cranberry purple tones. It's such a nice palette. It's so cute and festive. I love their formulas, and unfortunately, sometimes Colourpop's formula with a collaboration isn't always fantastic. This one is really good, and I do love the color story in this. It is more approachable too, so if maybe some of these more bold shades make you go, I don't know what to do with this, because when it's very colorful all throughout, sometimes a palette like this is an assist palette. You use this along with something more neutral. So that's why I think these two go together so splendidly, because you can use the Gather Round Sisters palette to get your eye look going, and then use the Misunderstood palette to get your eye look poppin'. Get it all kinds of witchy-tastic. I love that. Your girl loves a theme sometimes. We just do. So these are absolutely fall palettes to me. There was another Hocus Pocus palette. Do you have that one? I don't have the other one. Now this palette can be two palettes. Hear me out. This is the Sahara palette from Alter Ego, also known as the affordable dupe for the Beaute palette from Natasha Denona. I was so excited when Alter Ego reached out to me and asked if I wanted to try some of their shadows. And this is a palette they sent to me, and it is so beautiful. And it does look a lot like it's the dupe for the Beaute palette. And having Natasha Denona formulas in my collection, I can say I think the formulas are also great. So I haven't splurged the like $130 for the Beaute when I have this. Now this is a very neutral, warm toned palette as well. Again, another reason I feel like I don't necessarily need the I Need a Warm palette just yet from Natasha that just dropped. But this is something I immediately associate with the fall. Look at these autumnal hues in here. We have got these like punchy, like orange, almost yellow colors here that are just so pretty. We also have some gorgeous shimmers in here. Warm tones. We've also got some gray tones, some black tones. This is like the most used style, the Beaute palette, when it's the original. That's what people say is their most used palette, and I can totally see why, because it is very versatile. But you also have these deep tones that you could get real vampy, you could get real sexy, real smoky-eyed with it, but also very approachable, a little warm, a little neutral. So she's got a little bit of everything. Great for fall. Perfect. Now this next palette I'm putting into this video because to me this color story screams fall. And if it also doesn't scream amazing while I'm using it, I'm gonna have to declutter it. That's the other thing. Because otherwise, I don't have a space for this in my collection. And you guys have seen with my declutter series, we don't hang on to stuff. This is a great brand, Ace Beaute. This is their Mystique Romance palette. And it is very vampy. It is very dark. For me, this is not a color story that Nichole reaches for regularly. This is we've got a lot of purples. We have a lot of deep, vampy shades that for me, like too many red vampy things can make me and my skin tone look a little sickly. So I'm hoping this fall I can pull out some of these shades and really enjoy them, but like this whole row is making me real nervous. I don't know. Well, and also some things up here. Like look how deep these are coming off. So I'm hopeful that maybe this is gonna be like a fantastic palette for, oh gosh, the fall. Oh man, look how pigmented these are. Oh baby. I'm really hoping these end up being great. I mean, I love the formula on the eyes. They blend great. It's just, this could be really great though with my skin tone. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. So this is an old school palette that is so nostalgic to me. This is my first Natasha Denona palette that was gifted to me by one of you guys after my surgery that it just melts my heart when I think about it. And it also melts my heart when I think about using it in the fall, because this is also a warm toned palette. I have not reached for this a bunch throughout this year, but it's because for me, the warm tones now associate in the fall for me. Cooler tones in the summer, which is so backwards from what I used to think. Don't ask me questions. This is just how my brain works. I like neutrals throughout the summertime. This is where my brain is at now. I used to like brights in the summertime. Now I like neutrals in the summertime. You know, everybody's preferences change, makeup styles change. And then in the fall, I'm wanting the pops of warmth, the warmth on the eyes, which I've always kind of wanted that, but I also could give it, you know, an argument for cool tones too. This was one of her first, maybe her first mid-size palette that was like 65 bucks. So the formula isn't known to be her best in this one, but the color story has been a favorite of mine for a long time. So I'm excited to play around with this some more. And these warm tones that are red and a little bit more zhuzhy are not as scary to me as this one that's very vampy, very deep, whereas this one's a lot lighter, brighter, and cheerier. So I'm excited to play with her again. Look how pretty those are. Like those do scream, like it's called the Sunset Palette by Natasha. Did I even say that? But you get the sunset vibes, don't you? I so do. This arm is going to look crazy by the time this video is done. We only have 3 more palettes here and they're so special. They're so special. This one is brand new to me. I got it over the weekend. I have filmed with it once. You can check out our recent video that I just uploaded showing you guys the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude. I went back and forth with this palette compared to the warm palette and compared to another palette that I have in my collection that I have loved for, gosh, 2 years now. It's the Glam palette. I compared these at nauseum before I made the purchase because 65 bucks is nothing to sneeze at when we're talking about makeup, and I have a pretty decent collection. I went on Instagram with you guys and asked you between the warm palette and since I already have the Glam palette, do I need the I Need a Nude? And a lot of you guys were like, yeah, I think you need the I Need a Nude because you can see the difference here between the Glam and the I Need a Nude. The I Need a Nude is definitely more neutral, a lot more of that middle tone, whereas this Glam palette is a lot more the cool tones. And the warm palette is obviously warm, but I have so many warm things from Natasha and other brands. I clearly was like, I don't know if I need that right now. Whereas this, I feel like is a workhorse and I'm gonna be able to use this a ton all year round. This is something that I have loved a lot, but I have found myself thinking this is too cool or too gray toned a little bit for me. So I was wanting something a little bit extra. So these are both things that I do love and I am excited to say are in this video because I love them both because they can definitely accent each other very nicely. This one I'm very familiar with how to use, the Glam palette, but the I Need a Nude is something I have definitely been curious about since it came out. It does have a little bit of some pink tones to it, a little bit of that dusty rose as I call it, but then there are still a ton of neutrals. We've got a lot of different options in here, and I did a full look with it in the previous video. Again, go check that out. I am loving this, and I'm loving to see how I can use this along with this palette together this fall because they're so yummy. And the last palette that I have that I'm so excited about is newer to my collection, and I'm so excited to say it is a collaboration with my dear friend Rhonda, Hotmessmama. This is her mini mix palette from Ofra, and as soon as I saw this palette when she sent it to me, I was like, girl, this is a fall lover's dream. Again, we've got the greens, we've got the purples. We've talked about how these are nice, rich gemstone colors for fall. Also with style that tends to be when we pull out those types of clothing pieces to wear when they're more gemstone. They're a little bit more of that fall autumnal vibe. The makeup can totally go with it. With these shades, we've got some neutrals. Obviously, we've got a nice combination of it being a bronzer, a blush, and a highlighter, so it's also great for travel. But these neutral shades too give you some nice options as well. I love that the nude and warm tones in here can really diversify up a look to keep it very natural, or we could start smoking things out, add in a punch of color, And then we've got a full festival on our faces. A fall festival, that is. I mean, so great. I love it. Thank you so much to Rhonda and Ofra for sending me this. I'm so excited to wear it this fall because, I mean, look at it. It's the whole face for you of fall. What are you excited to pull out this fall for those warmer tones? Maybe the more colorful tones. Maybe you just go flat out, just more cool toned, but still neutral. Tell me all of the things you're excited to use. Did I remind you of anything? I love hearing that from you guys when I pull out everything out of my arsenal that I get excited for, and you guys jump in the comments and you're like, oh, I forgot about this palette. Oh, I love that. Thank you for reminding me. I love hearing all of that from you. And again, let me know what days you're wanting to see maybe more videos from me in addition to the Saturday mornings, because I'm looking to upload more with you guys, and I'm gonna do my best to see how I can fit that in. I love hanging out with you guys, and thank you so much. I will see you in the next one. Bye, friends.